Welcome to the Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 meeting of the Longmeadow School Committee. Just a reminder that all votes while participating remotely must be made by roll call vote. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin with correspondence. I will turn over to Nicole.
The following correspondence was received. A memo from Mr. Donald Jarvis, Director of CTEC, dated May 27th, 2022, regarding the Walter E. Quigley Jr. Student of the Month Awards for May 2022. Longmeadow student honored was Jared Fritz, Graphic and Visual Design 2. An email from Mr. Jonathan Levin Epstein, dated May 27th, 2022, regarding the dress code at Longmeadow High School.
Thank you, Nicole. Next up is approval of minutes. We have a recommended motion.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes for the May 24th, 2022 school committee meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, we will vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. Next up is visitor comments. Just a reminder for visitor comments, please tell us your name and your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak. And again, direct your comments to the committee. Do we have any visitors who would like to make a comment? I see Lauren Arbor's hand up.
Forgive me, I'm not a technology person, so.
Clearly, neither are we, so go ahead, Lauren.
I'm Lauren Arbor. I'm sorry, am I supposed to give my address?
Yes, please.
78 Wimbledon Drive. And I want to apologize if this is redundant because I did send an email to the school committee, but I just wanted to make sure I get everything in and covered if I can.
Sure.
What I was looking to do is somehow get a poll or survey of the adults of the community, and definitely including faculty and staff, to see if there, and I know this might be covered later, so again, I apologize, but if there are specific safety measures that we would all be behind either implementing or expanding upon. I know there are a lot of options and everyone has their own ideas, so I thought if we could start by seeing what people are comfortable with, because there are a lot of different options. That would be a good place to start before we look into the logistics and cost and all that. Not trying to be political and not trying to discuss larger issues, which there are larger issues, but just really focusing on school safety in Longmeadow, what we can do for our kids right now.
Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that comment, and I encourage you and others who are interested in this to stay tuned because we're going to be talking about that very shortly. Thank you. Other visitor comments, please, and you may need to get closer so that we can hear. And again, just tell us your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Great.
You're welcome to have a seat.
Yeah, please have a seat.
Comfortable. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. Leanne McQuaid, 192 William Street. Just like Lauren, I also sent an email to the school committee with the same concerns. Same exact thoughts as Lauren, really. It's such a political topic, shouldn't be. I'm not here to debate that at all, but just want to explore what we can do to make the school safer for the children and the teachers.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other visitor comments? All right. Thank you. And again, it's great to have a visitor comment in person. That's so exciting. And we love the comments from Zoom as well. And as always, we welcome emails. Again, everybody on the committee reads all the emails. So thank you for expressing your opinions and let us know what you're thinking. We appreciate that. All right, next up, school committee announcements and recognitions. And I will just say we should start this by recognizing Susie and Bronwyn for their service on the committee. And so I think I would welcome comments on that topic before we get into other announcements and recognitions. Who would like to start? Gianna.
I keep forgetting I have to talk loud.
Yes, you do.
Which sometimes isn't a problem for me, so that's okay. Bronwyn, there she is. Hey, Bronwyn.
Hello.
Bronwyn, so I know that I've said this before, but I just want to say it again. You are the inspiration for why I'm on the school committee. You inspired back then, and you've continued to inspire just by, you're always looking out for the kids, and you're always helping us think things through. So just love and appreciate you, and just wanted to say thank you again for serving with such compassion and leadership and just all around great stuff.
Oh, thank you, Gianna.
And then to Susie, so I'll yell that way, but I'll be looking at you just about anything education or just about your cute kids. You're just always there to help me, work through some stuff, think through some stuff, and sometimes my, crazy stuff. But I just love and appreciate you too, and both of you are just going to be big losses for us, but I know I'll still keep you on my back dial. Thanks, Susie.
Thank you, Gianna. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianna. Nicole.
I will also start with Bronwyn over here. Thank you so much for all of the service you have given to the town. You have been an amazing resource for the last few years and have brought so much wisdom and thought and so much great experience to us. And it's just been an absolute honor working alongside you for the last few years, and really, really, really appreciate you and wish you all the best with your next endeavors. And to Susie, which it is weird to not turn, I'm going to try to turn a little bit. Same, just it's been a huge honor working alongside you. I feel like there's almost nothing that you don't seem to know about when it lands in the world of education, as Gianna said, and that's been such a fabulous resource and somebody to talk to and to figure out all the things and to craft all of our motions when needed on the fly, and just an amazing resource and so much energy and intelligence and thought, and we just really, really appreciate everything you've done for the town and everything you've done for all of us personally, and super, super hoping that the next steps are wonderful ones for you, and glad to have worked alongside you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Go ahead, Mary.
I want to echo what has been said so far, but also to say it's been a privilege to serve with both of you. And that's from my school committee side of things, but through the parent lens, I really thank you for the many, many hours, hundreds, thousands of hours that you have spent. For people at home, this is not just a job that you do during the meeting time. There is a lot of prep that you do in advance of these meetings. And it's been a really tough couple of terms these last few years, and so there's a lot of, for me, and I think both of you feel deeply, the decisions that we make have a profound effect on the kids in our community, so we do not take that lightly as a committee, and I'm so grateful to you both for being leaders on the committee, and I've learned a lot from you in my 1 year as part of this. So enjoy all those hours that you will have next year to do whatever you want with.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Jamie, go ahead.
Sentiment. Obviously, I've been on the committee with both of you for a while now, and through many different, very interesting times, whether 3 years ago or whether through the pandemic. I mean, you're two of the brightest. It's truly going to be missed and impossible to replace, that amount of knowledge, and obviously the learnings that you've had the last few years as well. So truly going to miss you guys, and, sad to see both of you leave.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just say, ditto to what everybody else said. And Bronwyn, I want to acknowledge that you are currently the longest serving member of the school committee, and we all came on, and you were a mentor to us. So thank you for all of that work. And I also want to acknowledge both of you, the service you've given not just to the committee, but all of the subcommittees that you've served on. You've served on all of the key subcommittees, and you guys have been a driving force. You say you can't hear me? Brilliant. Bronwyn, can you hear me?
Kathy is saying louder, please.
Louder,
No.
please. All right. So I feel like this is par for the course for the last 3 years. Bronwyn, can you hear me? Bronwyn, can you hear what I'm saying?
I heard that last part.
Okay, all right. So, thank you to both of you. You have done great work on subcommittees, in the committee, and you really have been just great resources for us, and by extension to everybody in the town. So, thank you again, and it's a small token of our appreciation, but we have plaques for both of you, so Bronwyn, you can come and pick yours up. It looks like this. And I'm
Thank you
sure that Diane will have that at her desk when you are next able to come and pick it up. And Susie, you get it in person.
I get it in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you both of you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bronwyn, are you going to say something? Can she hear me? Bronwyn, can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I didn't know, I wanted to also just speak to Bronwyn. I'll never forget, when I first started on the committee, I met with Bronwyn first, and it was a real honor to just learn from her and understand, that was a difficult time, as we all know, and I was grateful for her guidance and really just everything that you've offered along the way. And I feel like what's been amazing about this committee and how it's formed over the last 3 years is that we've become friends, and that doesn't often happen in this kind of an environment. So I'm very grateful to you for kind of setting that stage when I first joined Bronwyn. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Susie. I appreciate that. It was definitely an honor also serving with everyone. There's been a lot of different people. And I know that Susie and I will miss a lot of the parts of it, but we will still be paying close attention. So I wanted to wish everyone good luck, but yeah, Susie is probably our biggest loss in quite a while. Just at all the meetings and subcommittees and things like that, the knowledge that she brings from all the things she's done in the past has really helped move us forward and given us really great perspective on different things that we didn't have. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And the last thing I wanted to say was thank you all. This has been never expected that this would happen, going onto the school committee and serving, but it has been a great experience. It's also had its, significant challenges, as we all know, but it's been an absolute honor to serve with people who deeply care about our learners, our community. It's been amazing to work with this administration, and it's been fantastic to get to know Dagan over the last couple of years and to actually see his face for the for the last few meetings. Diane, thank you for all you've done to help us out. So from the bottom of my heart, yeah, thank you. But I am looking forward to some hours back so I can keep my family in line for the next few years. But as Bronwyn said, I'm the kind of person I can't stay away, so I guess I will be closely paying attention and reaching out to my my school committee members when I have questions and thoughts. So thank you very much, all of you.
And I just wanted to add that I'm very confident between the admin and the school committee that you guys won't miss a beat and carry on very, very well and professionally, and looking forward to all the exciting things that you guys will be doing. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you again to both of you. Do we have any other announcements and recognitions? Marty?
I'll jump in. I was going to save it for my superintendent's report, but I couldn't let the moment go without echoing all the comments that were made. Susie and Bronwyn provided amazing, purposeful, steady leadership and guidance to this district during some really, really challenging times, and we will always be indebted. And I want to thank them for their support, the support and guidance they've given me personally and professionally, and also to the entire administrative team. It's wonderful to have essentially a boss that you feel like you can have, difficult conversations with, and we've had a lot over the years and over some really challenging topics, and I've always appreciated the openness and the ability of Susie and Bronwyn to make themselves available at a moment's notice. And this is, as Mary said, it's a very challenging job. To do it right, it requires an enormous amount of time and commitment, and Bronwyn and Susie have done it right. So thank you on behalf of the entire administrative team and all the wider LPS community. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty.
All right.
Anything else? Announcements, recognitions. Gianna.
Loopy, who's louder first? Thank you, Kevin. I just wanted to remind everybody, although Mental Health Awareness Month is May and it's since passed, I don't normally, focus on just 1 month for, significant issues. So I'll just remind everybody that there's a lot of celebrating going on, which is awesome. But with that also brings a lot of changes. There's also continued schooling going on, a lot of stressors still for a lot of our students and families. And so I've just remind everybody to please continue to be mindful of students and families and people's mental health and just kind of emotional and physical well-being as well. Again, I love that there are celebrations. Well, we've still got, 2 weeks left, and then we've got, a whole lot of learning and life to live ahead of that. So just please remember to be considerate of yourself, your own mental health, but also of those around you. If you notice anything, or if you, please reach out and check in with others. And, again, happiness and super excited for all the celebrations, but please continue to be mindful about mental health.
Thank you, Gianna. Mary, go ahead.
Well, I want to acknowledge the educators, the families, and the students for all of these wonderful end-of-the-year events that are happening. I have kids at every level, so I have been to a lot of stuff lately. I went to the center school field day for lunch with parents, which was really one of the first times I felt like this was a real normal activity where kids were wearing their colored shirts and there were lots of families on picnic blankets, and it was really a happy event. I've been to a few concerts lately. The middle school grade 6 Williams chorus concert and band concert was delightful. I've never seen so many 6th graders dancing during a concert. I mean, they were just really engaged, and for a lot of kids, this is really the first time that they performed on a stage since before the pandemic. I also attended the Lhs Spring Concert, and I know that there was another concert. Maybe you'll mention that too, because I think you were at that. Okay. I want to acknowledge all of the work that it takes for MCAS coordination over the last few months. That is a burden on our administration and our teaching staff, and involves changed schedules, and just closing the school buildings for the year is a major effort. And so just want to acknowledge everybody who is working hard to bring our kids through to the end. And then on a different track, I did want to talk about the Longmeadow town track team. They hosted Amherst at the meet on Saturday. I know I'd reached out to Marty about it. The day we were supposed to run against Amherst was the day after the accident that involved 3 of our students, and so it was rescheduled for this past Saturday. And the Amherst track kids came with cards and gifts for our kids. And I have 3 children. All of them are involved in track at different levels in cross country. And the running community in our town and surrounding towns, and the outpouring of support, because the 3 students involved in the accident were also involved in the running programs, has been just tremendous, and it just continues. And so I just am grateful to our surrounding communities for supporting our kids.
Thank you, Mary. Nicole, go ahead.
A lot of the similar things, as Mary mentioned. A big thank you to everybody for all of the end-of-year events. There are a lot of wonderful things happening around town, and it's been great to experience some of them. The 2 concerts at LHS, the Major Works concert and the Spring Concert, were both wonderful. It was great to see all of the students back out again. It was lovely to see all the pictures from Field Day. That's the first time in a while that I've seen as many pictures pouring in from friends and family members for Field Days. So that's lovely to see everybody out. And just a big thank you to all of the families and school staff and everybody who are working so hard to bring all of these fun end-of-year events to our kids.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole. All right. I think we're ready to move on. All right. Next up is business with guests, school safety update. I'm going to turn it over to Marty.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'd ask to join us at the table Captain Carl Mazzaferro. Chief Stocks sends his regrets, but sends his support. He has a professional commitment tonight. Really wanted to be here with us tonight, but it was a irreconcilable conflict for him. So welcome to Captain Mazzaferro, who representing our partners from the Longmeadow Police Department, and happy to have an opportunity tonight to present to the committee and to the wider community an overview of some of the practices and procedures and protocols that are in place to help keep us safe. It's sad that yet again we have to have this important conversation at this level following the tragedy in Uvalde, but we are at a point where it's important to reassure, I think, the community, reassure our staff, reassure our students as best we can that we have a lot of adults working hard, working cooperatively, and working with a lot of equipment to keep us safe. So thank you, Captain Mazzaferro, for joining us, and we have a slide presentation that we'd like to walk through. And if anybody at home is I'm trying to shout, but if you're having a difficult time hearing me, just let me know. All right. I just want to, before I keep going, our visitors and our committee members at home, you can see this okay? Thumbs up, or if it's visible to you? Not visible.
On the screen. You
Can't
just have a
see
white.
it.
It was originally on the screen.
Okay, let me,
Now it's gone.
We could see it at first.
gotcha. All right, so maybe if I keep it,
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
that's okay now?
Yep.
All right, so if I don't go to full screen,
There you go.
we'll show it this way. All right, well, thank you. So We like to think that we take a very comprehensive approach to prevention, protection, and mitigation. And as we think about it, there are really sort of two components. One involves physical safety, and we think equally important is to be attentive to creating positive school climates. So I thought it made sense to talk about each of those areas, and look forward to answering any questions that the committee has and taking back any feedback. So we'll start with where I think a lot of this work begins and is planned thoughtfully, and that is the district safety team. And this is something we sort of resurrected about 5 or 6 years ago, and it includes the Longmeadow Police Department, Longmeadow Fire, LPS administrators, and representatives from Longmeadow DPW. A critical member of that team is our school resource officer, but Officer Mazzaferro joins us, and always present is Chief Stocks and Chief Dearborn. And so, I think we all agree that the safety of Longmeadow really relies on, to a large degree, the strength of the relationship of these stakeholders. And we are in constant communication, obviously during the meetings, but frequently in between the several meetings that we have each year. I want to thank Tom Mazza, our Assistant Superintendent for Operations and Finance, who helps coordinate our agenda. And what we do is we set the agenda, and we always bring that feedback back to the entire administrative team. Our school, we're fortunate to have a school resource officer. Officer Pam Chaplin is a tremendous resource to to the families of Longmeadow, to the students of Longmeadow, and to the staff and the administration. She's very, very knowledgeable, and really has a good working understanding of the partnership that makes for safe schools. We are able to, in matters, I want to assure everyone that in matters involving safety, we're able to share information that's critical to keeping students and staff in the community safe. So Pam has an office here at the high school, and is always there in the morning to greet our students. I'm going to turn a few things over to Officer Mazzaferro in a moment. I wanted to highlight the interagency radio communication. There's a short, small little picture of the radios. These are really robust walkie-talkies, not the type that we're used to that you would buy at Target or something. These are really sophisticated radios that allow for instant communication between staff who have been assigned these radios and administration here in the central office, and then there is a distinct channel where we can connect directly with public safety. We're really fortunate that this committee has made a significant investment in radio communication, and the community as a whole has made a significant commitment in terms of the radio communication. We're also fortunate that we have dozens and dozens and dozens of interior and exterior security cameras. It's a growing fleet. This committee was supportive of a request to add additional cameras. To be candid, cameras provide, they provide us with the ability to monitor critical areas, hallways, exteriors, campus, but really in and of themselves, they serve as a way to record, or a way for first responders to zero in on a particular area if there's a public safety event. And so the next slide also kind of gets into some of the equipment, the infrastructure that keeps our staff and students safe. We have controlled access, single point of entry, swipe card access, visitor identification, and visitor badging This is an area that, we do need to, frankly, continually remind, reaffirm our commitment to making sure that we're not propping open doors and making sure that we are funneling as safely as we can, funneling visitors to a single point of entry, and making sure that we are being true to the visitor identification protocols. We during COVID, frankly, we had a long stretch of period of time where we really didn't have many visitors, and so we found that coming out of COVID, we really had to kind of reaffirm, re-anchor ourselves in these visitor identification strategies and protocols. So you'll see some of the equipment that helps us do this. All the buildings are alarmed. We have, in addition to a large camera overhead, we also have cameras that are tied to the buzzer system, and in the offices there's large monitors so that office staff, including administration, can see visitors as they're approaching the doors. Candidly, we always have to be strategic about how we position these cameras, and they're subject to the limitations and that sometimes exist in and around some of our buildings. So here's where I probably should turn things over to Officer Mazzaferro. One of the questions that I've received from this committee in the last couple of weeks and from community members is public safety experience and familiarity with our buildings. And so if I could turn it over to Officer Mazzaferro and maybe speak to, and if you want to, if there's anything I missed in the first couple of slides, feel free to walk back to that too. But I think you'd be we have Mrs. Monahan has her hand up. 1 second. Unable to hear us, Bronwyn?
Can't hear Marty.
Okay. All right, so going back a few minutes or just more recently? Are you able to? Wonder if what if you? Yeah. Yeah. Could I try it? How about now? Able to hear me now? How's that? Testing, check, check.
No. It was working fine for a while.
And you weren't muted. Check, check. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. And how much would you like me to backtrack? I do feel like it's important that we capture this for the record.
I heard everything till this slide, whenever you flip this slide.
Okay, all right, excellent.
Yes.
All right, so that's encouraging, thank you. So this is the slide that I'd like to turn over to Officer Mazzaferro to talk to us a little bit about public safety experience and familiarity with our facilities and all the various things that are in place to ensure that public safety can respond appropriately, so.
Thank you. Again, my name is Captain Carl Mazzaferro of the Longmeadow Police Department. Prior to my role as captain, I was the town's traffic and safety supervisor for 4 years, so I have great knowledge of all the schools. So for a new officer who gets hired in the Longmeadow Police Department, part of our field training program is acclimation to the schools. So they're required to go to all the schools, learn the schools, and then that continues throughout their career here in Longmeadow. Our day shift officers continually go through the schools. They go in, meet the principals, get acclimated to schools, so have kids see them, gives that secondary presence that they see a cruiser outside of the schools during the day. And to go back to our school resource officer, even though her office might be here at LHS, she works closely with all the principals at all the elementary schools and the middle schools. She takes phone calls on the weekends, at night when she's not working. So she's 24 hours, for the school district. As for safety and access, I think you see one of the pictures. It looks like the lock box there. The police department does have access to it. Gives us direct control to the schools to get in. Gives us quick access. All of our officers do have key cards on them, also to gain access to the schools if we need to. And as for the cameras, we can see all the cameras from our station, from the schools, at all the schools. So.
One of the drills that has been helpful, I think, to orient the department to our schools is the active shooter drills. And so annually, you've made it, even through COVID, I think, we made a commitment to have the officers train at each of the schools, so
Yeah,
that's been
we
helpful.
do active shooter training or active threat training every single year on an annual basis. We rotate through all the schools. We've done it with the Massachusetts State Police. And actually, when they do come, they give us their advanced course because we've done it so often with them. So again, we also get that familiarity with the schools in that aspect too.
One of the things that I've been encouraged by, because this hasn't always been my experience, is the key management, which the security key management, which we have master keys at each of the buildings that access all the interior doors. So a single key, Williams might have 2 or 3 masters, but there's essentially, we've got a good handle, good management of keys. I've been an administrator, worked in schools where I've seen custodians have to walk around with, a bowling ball-sized keychain, and that you don't want that at a moment when there's a safety event. And so it's really helpful that through the Knox box, the police have access to those master keys, and then also our administrators and our custodians have access. So that's a really, really important security benefit that we have available to us. In terms of locking door, another question I've gotten in recent weeks is the ability to lock doors from inside the classrooms. And so at the high school here, for example, the default is that the doors remain in a locked position. At the other schools, we rely on these magnetic strips. It's a real simple but effective way that helps classroom teachers lock doors at a moment's notice. So the doors are kept in and help me out, Mr. Maz, if I'm explaining this the right way. The doors are kept in a locked position, but the magnetic strip allows for children to, it seals the lock, and it allows for children to come and go, as they often do in a classroom. But if there's a safety event, if someone were to call for a lockdown, the teachers can immediately peel off that magnetic strip, and then the locking mechanism will open up and allow for the doors to lock. So is that a fair explanation?
Fair enough.
Yeah. We have to take inventory of these magnetic strips to make sure that they, little hands don't walk off with the magnetic strips, and we always start the school year making sure that we're in a good position to make sure that those doors can be locked at a moment's notice. And then our DPW partners play a role in keeping us safe too. I think DPW officials have learned about how the landscaping of a school, for example, can be a part of school safety, making sure that the shrubs are cut low below window levels, making sure that we're not, that we have equipment outside that doesn't allow access to a roof. And these are the things that we just need to be continually attentive to. And frankly, we're all in this together. And if any staff member or community member sees something that, might compromise safety and security, we want to know about that. We want to jump on it quickly. And so, the environmental work in and around schools is important. I'd also want to highlight, Carl, you note I have a photo of our front door here, and it has the B2 marking above our front door. Would you address that and how that works?
So each of the schools is labeled B side, C side, A side, or D side, and that way we know if something's going on, we'll say to the B side, and the officers will know which direction to go to with the schools. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago, the police department and the fire department worked together to come up with maps of all the schools, locations of staging, locations where all the doors are, and the officers have access to that. If something was to happen, they'll know where to go and what to do. We know where to close streets, so there's been a lot of work by all the stakeholders, within the community to make sure our schools are as safe as possible.
or exterior doors,
exterior doors, yeah.
have the marking, not the mechanical closets or anything, but the exterior doors have the marking in it, and it allows for quick and rapid response, and nothing gets lost in translation. So that's certainly another asset that we have. The physical safety and security, a few other things that are worth mentioning, again, that, we're always, as we go through this list, I would just note that we're always, sort of monitoring this. Our practices are always evolving. Hopefully, our practices are always expanding, and we're trying to improve on the equipment, improve on the communication, improve on the protocols. So we want to be in a better place next year than we were this year, and the following year than we are next year. So one of the assets here in Longmeadow, again, not all communities can say this, is that we have a highly integrated phone system. So town and school phones are integrated, and our staff have the ability to do all calls from any phone. And so they're voice over internet phones, and they have a lot of features in there that allow for instant communication. One of the other features in our phone system is that if anybody calls 911 from any of our phones, all of us immediately get an email and a text message. I shouldn't say all of us. Key administrators get an email or a text message on their phone alerting them that there's been a 911 call. So it's very, very immediate. Again, I don't think all communities can say that is the case. And so we're really fortunate that we've got I'd say a sophisticated phone system in place. Badge identification, again, we need to remind and reaffirm folks of the importance of wearing badges. They have a purpose, obviously, to swipe folks into buildings. The emergency operations plans, the red folders that are depicted on the slide here, we try to update those as frequently as possible. A few years ago, we installed shatter-resistant security film in key areas on certain buildings. I think there's some sort of trade secrets or security information that we probably don't want to widely broadcast, but I would want to assure folks that on key window panels, in key areas, we have that shatter-resistant film. Thank Mr. Mazza for bringing that to us a few years ago. Key management, I mentioned. Emergency lockdown buttons. So this little device here, nondescript looking white box in the top right, is there are two of them here in the central office area, and then there are additional ones at the high school. And when pushed, they emit an audible tone throughout the building. They lock exterior doors and disable all the badges. At our other schools, we do have the lockdown buttons, but they don't emit, we don't have the technology in place right now to emit that audible tone and lock the exterior doors, but it will disable the badges at the other schools. So again, that might be something that I suspect the committee might wonder about. What are some ways we can grow or improve? That might be something that we could look at down the road. The response protocols, one of the things that's evolved here in Longmeadow and elsewhere is to sort of move away from the static lockdown, the fixed lockdown, where the only singular response is go in a less visible corner of the room and be quiet and turn off the lights and pull down the blinds, right? I spent some time as a teacher and an administrator drilling students that way. We've shifted towards, and a lot of this was happening in the 1920 school year, where we, at the recommendation of the Longmeadow Police Department, we moved to this sort of avoid, deny, defend model. And it's an active response. It's not a static, passive response. It encourages individuals in a school building to avoid the hazard, deny an intruder if there's an active intruder, and if worse came to worse, to defend yourself against that active intruder. We have staff have been oriented to it. We need to, I think the plan for next year is to kick off the school year at a very early stage. It was a little tough this year because there were times where we couldn't get entire faculties together. Remember, at the beginning of this year, for a good chunk of this year, we were still challenged by some COVID restrictions, so it was a little tough this year to get that, to push that training out. But actually, even a few weeks before Vivaldi, we had made a commitment to kind of hit that early on. Officer Mazzaferro, Officer Chaplain, lead staff in that avoid, deny, defend training. What we really need to think about is how do we bring that training to students? Students have been oriented to it, but it's got to be done in age-appropriate ways. It's got to be ways that keep students safe but don't produce trauma. And so we've begun discussions about what that can look like next year to orient students to that avoid, deny, defend model. And how do we encourage students to practice that or exercise it or drill it in age-appropriate ways? And so that's what that's another thing that we're working through the safety team with right now. Our safety planning is an all hazards approach. It really doesn't focus on active intruders. It focuses on everything from weather hazards to exterior threats that are off campus that don't involve us directly. So having that all hazards approach gives us some of that flexibility that we need. Reunification tabletop exercises, I've found these to be very, very beneficial. You basically, the year before COVID, we assembled clerical staff, custodians, administrators at some of the schools, and we sat down and we did some tabletop exercises. One of them involved a suspicious backpack. So Chief Dearborn and Chief Stocks, at the time it would have been Chief Stankiewicz, yes. Walked us through how would we respond to a suspicious backpack. So that was one of the tabletop drills that we worked through in some of the schools. And we did one as an entire administrative team. We did a reunification drill, tabletop drill with the entire administrative team just before COVID as well. So I think that's another area, if the committee is interested in things that, we need to continue to grow in, and it's sort of executing a reunification. If there were an event that caused us to evacuate schools on a surprise basis, we would want to be able to reunify and reconnect students with their families safely and as quickly and safely as possible. So we have, through the district safety team, we have put together reunification kits. So every school has a reunification kit, and in that reunification kit is maps, permission slips, the reunification plan, and the destination. So there's a number of components. That's a kit, though, frankly, that we want to continue to build out that kit and continue to add critical supplies to that kit to make sure that we can respond if we needed to reunify. But again, a lot of this reunification planning has sort of come out of that sort of active response approach, where we're not trying to be sort of static in our approach to responding to an active intruder. Officer Mazzaferro, anything you want to add in terms of the security responses?
We also work together on the early warning systems of students with crisis or mental health. We keep in constant contact and communication about that.
Yeah, it's a key part of it is sort of those relationships. When we have those relationships in place, then we're able to really kind of have that familiarity to pick up the phone to talk about a situation and understand what the key issues are. Just to illustrate the avoid, deny, defend approach a little more specifically, this is sort of some of the major tenets of the avoid, deny, defend strategy, encouraging folks to have that exit plan. You think about when we get on an airplane nowadays, the flight attendants will point us towards safety devices and towards exits, and that's sort of the mentality I think that we need to have, you know, when we get in public spaces, whether it be a school or anywhere else, frankly. And you know, as a side note, I'm reminded of that often by community members or administrators or teachers that, you know, sadly, these mass shootings, you know, they're not exclusive to schools, and they've occurred sadly at supermarkets and cinemas and big box stores and you name it. So it's something that, you know, we all need to sort of be kind of have an understanding of that avoid, deny, defend mentality. Sadly, that is the case. So I'll stop there. The next part of this gets into school climate, but just to take a breather and give the committee a chance to ask Carl or I any questions that you might have or provide any feedback before we transition to the sort of school climate side of this.
Could you maybe stop sharing?
Sure, yeah.
So, questions, comments? Susie?
Yeah, thank you for putting that together, Dr. O'Shea, and thank you, Sergeant Mazzaferro. I'm after 2014, which was obviously an event in Newtown. I know that I think it'd be helpful for the public to know, like, because there was a great deal of money funneled into schools across the country at that time, funneled from the federal government through the states. Can you just speak a little bit to, I would assume all of those safety features that you just showed us, you know, were a result probably of that investment of funding.
Yeah, I think I would say even some of it, I'd ask Mr. Maz, who's been here longer, some of it even went back further, that where
Right.
Longmeadow was part of a region on call grant, and that was a number of districts from the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative were a part of that. And that jump-started a lot of the emergency operations training and provided a lot of key equipment to us at the time. More recently, anything that you'd point to, Tom, or is that?
I don't know if it was specifically tied back to funding from the federal government, but obviously cameras are outside, besides the high school, at the other 5 schools. We've been investing in those. The film that the safety film that the superintendent is definitely something that is newer. That too, I think, was out of events from Sandy Hook that were recommended in an assessment of our buildings that areas be addressed by installing that component. And even badges, I think, just in terms of adding additional badge readers throughout areas in the building for access with staff who have them to enter and exit the building appropriately.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's important to identify that, you know, there'll probably be another round, I would assume, at some point, but I'm grateful that you've done so much already to, you know, have the schools ready. I did have a couple more questions. Is that okay? Sergeant Mazzaferro, just, you know, in light of circumstances around the most recent issue, the most recent event, what's the backup if there is a situation where your force is somehow compromised, or?
We mean if something happens to the
Like,
Longmeadow Police Department?
Right,
Well, we have our
what's next?
area, you know, we have East Longmeadow, we have
Yeah.
Enfield, we have the Massachusetts State Police, so we have what's called a regional radio system, WMLAC, so a call will go out on WMLAC, and then you would have resources come in through that.
Yeah, I think that's just helpful to know, because it
Yeah.
seemed like there were some challenges,
Yeah.
certainly in that line of communication that I think, you know, I'm sure the community would want to know about, for sure.
Can I ask as a
Yes.
follow-up to that, do those regional groups train together when you
Like-
go through training protocols?
We have trained with East Longmeadow and the state, like I said, we train a lot with the state police, but East Longmeadow will come in, you know, it might be every other year or 2 years, but, you know, they will do their own training at their own schools. But again, we've done training at their schools, they've come here and done training at our schools. And we try to do as much as we can together, but, you know, sometimes schedules. So, but we do train a lot with the Massachusetts State Police.
Okay, thank you. Then the last thing I wanted to note, and I think it's, you can't emphasize enough what Dr. O'Shea mentioned when he said there are trade secrets. Not everyone in this community should know everything about the safety and security of our buildings. So I just want to set expectations with the community that some of that does have to remain secret for very real purposes. This is a public meeting. We're sharing a lot of information, and I understand the need to, be assured and be reassured that our schools are safe, but if we give out too much information, we're potentially compromising the security of the buildings as well, and our children.
Yeah, I thank you for that. It's a critical point, even down to reunification destinations. That's something that we would want to sort of maintain confidential to our administrative team and our.
100%. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susie. Bronwyn, go ahead.
I just want to say, I think that the communication piece between the Longmeadow Police Department and the schools is excellent. And every time I've gone to a school, I've never been able to just walk in the front door. It's at, the buzzers that you showed with the cameras, and you still have to identify yourself before they'll let you in. So I think they do a really good job of that in the front offices. One thing I was wondering about is the Marty, I didn't understand the emergency lockdown system you were describing at the high school and the central office. You were saying that the other schools have that, but not the same degree. But I was still confused about that.
Yeah, let me take a shot, and anybody can jump in. The high school emergency lockdown button that we showed, once that's activated, it will lock all the exterior doors. It will emit an audible tone across the building, and it will disable badges so that no one could potentially get in the building. So that's sort of a higher level that we have. At the lower schools, the lockdown button will immediately disable the badges only, so that anyone who is on the outside wouldn't be able to get in if there was an event inside the school. So it sort of stabilizes the building. It would be advantageous to have that higher level of lockdown button at the other schools. But again, I think what we have at the high school here in the central office area is really sophisticated. I think it's atypical to have that level of that type of lockdown button available to us. But I'm pleased that we do at least have the lockdown button that disables the badges at the other schools. So.
Okay, thanks. I just have one follow-up, Jamie. I was just wondering, I think that our guest speakers had a good idea of maybe surveying the faculty and staff. Sometimes they have good ideas. And also, I was just wondering if it was worth looking into just having, some type of school safety, specialist consultant, just give us kind of a, go around to each school and give us some, commendations and recommendations. I feel like we would have a lot of commendations, and the relationship with the police department is certainly one of those and at the top, and I appreciate that. But also, it would just be interesting to be able to see their recommendations and see what schools might be able to implement.
Yeah. I think the safety audit, it's been a while since we've conducted the type of safety audit you're describing, and it might very well be time to do that, just to identify, what are our assets and what are our vulnerabilities. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, Brahman, I love your idea. I think that's a great one. And I mean, my other 2 cents on the other differing systems is hopefully that expert or whomever will be able to say that. But from my vantage point, I would say I would want the same system in every school. I know there may be some sort of cost or something associated with that, but me as a parent in town and as a school committee member, I'd like to kind of align the systems, obviously, with the thoughts and ideas of that safety committee as well. But I think over time we need to be very consistent school to school in whatever we have. That was it.
Thank you, Jamie. So just a couple of questions and points. Captain Mazzaferro, just to remind folks, the state police are approximately how far away, right?
Yeah, we can't quite hear you.
Oh. Let me try again. Captain Mazzaferro, how close are the state police? They're in Springfield. It takes them approximately how long to get here?
I would say 5 minutes.
Okay. Right. So I think that's important for people to know. If we do need help, the state police are very close.
Yeah, East Longmeadow too. They're right across the line. So, and the thing with East Longmeadow too, now that we're on Westcom, we share radio frequency with East Longmeadow. I should have mentioned that earlier. So they're hearing everything that's going on here live. So that's a little bit different when you need assistance. They know exactly what's going on. We're not actually calling them on a regional channel. They're hearing it, and I would be confident that they would be coming over here as quickly as they could.
Excellent, thank you. And Marty, I wonder if you could, as much as you are willing to, talk a little bit about how the middle school project might address some key issues around those two schools, because I think one of the reasons we're benefiting at the high school is because it is the newest building, and maybe if you could speak a little bit to the middle schools, that might be helpful.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think when we submitted a statement of interest to the MSBA, one of the many concerns that we identified was the difficulty of locking down Glenbrook Middle School. Glenbrook has an open design, we all know. It is completely prohibitive to erect walls and doors. It goes, the costs would be astronomical and involve repairs or improvements to lighting and HVAC and ventilation, you name it. So Glenbrook, we have to be even more attentive to all the protocols that you're talking about here. But were we to design a new building or renovate an existing building, safety would be very much at the forefront in terms of the ability to lock down certain parts of the building, the ability to conduct surveillance and monitoring of the entire building, the ability to lock interior and exterior doors, the cameras that would be installed. It would be rich with technology and equipment to keep us safe for sure. So I'm certain that would be a big part of our discussion will continue to be a big part of our discussion with the MSBA. Yeah.
And I also wonder, Marty, if it might make sense for you to bring us some recommendations at an upcoming meeting for how to move forward. The idea of a safety audit, other ideas that might make sense. I think the committee would welcome continuing this discussion with some recommendations. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe now is a little premature for that.
Yeah.
But maybe a discussion, with the police department, fire department, whoever. Does that seem like a reasonable way to proceed?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It gives us an opportunity to think more about this and to get some feedback from the wider community, from the school committee, and identify some key priorities, whether it be some equipment or technology or infrastructure that assists with physical safety, or it involves some improvements to protocols or communication. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As we go on, a couple of cautions. We know that we always have to be really attentive to the protocols and the equipment that are part of our safety planning. And, I think Uvalde tells us that, again, that we just need to make sure we're constantly reinforcing and reaffirming all of these practices, and that we're letting staff know not to prop open doors. We're letting the community know that you can't, we all want to be good neighbors and kind and respectful, but you got to be careful about holding doors for someone, because we want folks properly identified before they come in. And we want to be welcoming to the community, but we need our office staff to make sure that they're being diligent about asking the right questions before they let somebody in. So all those things have to happen. If we're missing, magnetic strips, or if we have doors that aren't locking properly, all those things, again, we're all in this together as staff, as community members, as administrators, and we all want to bring these issues, we all want to surface these issues to make sure that we address them as quickly as possible. Chief Stocks had provided a handout to the committee, and in bold at the top, he wrote, "Communities can do everything recommended and still experience violence. However, being prepared can reduce the likelihood of violence." So I think that's a good message for us, that, we want to prepare for something that we hope never happens. And yet all the preparations in the world could, are no guarantee that we wouldn't experience violence. That's a hard thing to say, but it's an important thing that we have to acknowledge, I'd say.
Yes. Susie, please.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be said that the burden on our schools to make them safe and keep making them safer and keep locking them down and secure, I think we need to acknowledge that it is a significant burden on our schools and our children, on our educators, our staff, the people who come here every day, and their goal is to educate children. And I want us to do everything we can, absolutely. But other things need to happen as well.
Right.
And I'll stop there.
Right.
But other things do need to happen, because our children are at stake here. And all of you who work in the schools.
Well said.
Thank you, Susie. Bronwyn, please, go ahead.
I just had a quick question, only because I'm not sure. I don't know if this is for Marty or Officer Carl. Is one school resource officer for 6 schools, 3,000 kids? Is that like standard? I just don't know, to be honest.
I'll take a shot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any measure of how many SROs you need per school. I can tell you.
I can't hear him, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I said I don't think there's any measurement of how many SROs you need per school or staffing. But I can tell you, within the police department, it has been on our agenda to have a second SRO or a part-time SRO once we have the budget and the staffing for it. That's gone back to Chief Stankiewicz. So it's always been on the forefront of the Longmeadow Police Department to, first and foremost, that Officer Chaplain, again, like I told you, when I say she works probably 24 hours a day, it sometimes seems like that. So just to help her out would take off some of the burden of what she does. But it has been on our radar for years to be able to get another SRO, or again, we just look at the staffing and the budget for it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I can just speak to the standards and the approach of the SRO program has been changing ever since it was started. And so that's part of the challenge, is that there will, federally speaking and looking at the federal program itself, there will be an upswing now. I know it, because people want to put more SROs in the schools. But then when it comes down to actually funding them, when the grant program ends, that's when it's a challenge to keep them. And there is no standard set, because you can't possibly require communities to, keep to that standard from a federal level. That being said, I agree with you. I think there's a need for, additional school resource officers who are trained in not only just school security, but working with the youth, working with, partnering with the educators in the schools. There's such a value to a really effective SRO program in a school. So I can only, suggest further exploration of the addition of those resources.
Yeah, completely agree. Officer chaplain is busy, and really is an educational partner too. It isn't just about law enforcement. I mean, officer chaplain assists with internet safety programming, driver safety programming. If students are studying criminal law or constitutional law, she'll jump in classrooms occasionally. So she's very much integrated into our educational mission, and that's what I've always appreciated, her approach to the job and the way Chief Stocks has supported her role as a school resource officer. I mean, at the end of the day, each day we have probably 1,200 individuals assembled here on this Longmeadow campus, and just from a public safety first responder point of view, it's reassuring to know that officer chaplain is with us. So I'll move to the next part of our presentation, and this really gets into the school climate side of safety, and much of this will be more familiar, and I think we can I'll try to move efficiently through this. But when we think about school climate, I was doing some reading over the weekend, and I came across the phrase, I wish I could credit it, but it was about creating a connected community. And I think that's a really powerful way of thinking about how positive school climates can influence school safety. And so our attention to social emotional learning has certainly been heightened in recent years in Longmeadow and elsewhere, but there's really strong evidence that schools that have evidence-based SEL programs, that there's a connection between that and establishing safe schools where students have that sense of resiliency, they learn coping strategies, they learn to communicate, they learn empathy. All of those skills that you learn as part of a strong SEL program really help build that positive school climate and create less risky school environments. And so I think it's, oftentimes when after these mass shootings, we often turn our attention to hardening schools, and all those things are important. Physical safety is important, but I would, Gianna mentioned earlier in the meeting that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and what better time to think about that and think about how we attend to the social emotional needs of our kids and their staff. So we've been thinking about this through, through our strategic framework, the MTSS framework, and remembering that MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, pardon the acronym, pardon the jargon, but MTSS helps us think about academic progress, but there's a whole behavioral side of the MTSS framework that we want to be attentive to. And we've been having, even before Uvalde, discussions with our administrative team about sort of tier one, what does tier one behavioral expectations look like? How can we establish clear school-wide, be better at establishing clear school-wide behavioral expectations? Should we think about universal screening to identify students who are at risk behaviorally? We do universal screening on the academic side, but we don't universally screen on the behavioral side of the MTSS framework. So that's something that even before Uvalde we had been thinking about, and I thank Sue for coaching us in that direction. And then so there are supports for all learners, and then there are supports that some learners would get at tier two. Can we better employ staff to engage in small group counseling? Can we deploy staff to coach students and also receive coaching themselves? This committee was very interested and supportive of our investment in registered behavioral technicians, RBTs. that's a critical part of school safety and making sure that we're supporting students who are dysregulated. So all of these things are really critical parts of the puzzle, and we want to continue to be attentive to those. As we think about the sort of the physical safety, we need to make sure that we're looking at this comprehensively. And then tier 3, positive behavioral supports involving people who have staff that have specialized knowledge in this area. We want to make sure that we're having them work directly with individual students in individual settings. So thinking about behavioral supports through that MTSS strategic framework, we think contributes to school safety. And then just a few other things, and this, we couldn't possibly tonight sort of capture everything, but this is just meant to provide some sense of what we do to create connected communities. School-based support teams might be an MTSS team, might be a child study team, but having those school-based support teams identify students who are struggling behaviorally and putting supports in place. Engagement. I know that's an important concept to this committee. It's an important concept to us. We think that when students feel engaged academically, extracurricularly, athletically, that they're less likely to engage in risky behaviors. So that we really want to make sure that students feel that sense of engagement. Peer leadership programs, surveys. We have done quite a bit of surveys, and we really want to understand the student perspective. We want to understand what our needs are in terms of creating positive school climates. And so these are some of the surveys that we've done. This idea, one of the metrics I think that we ought to track is sort of trusted adults. And we've got some good longitudinal historical data on that. To what extent are we, do kids feel like they have a trusted adult that they can go to? That's a huge asset to a school that's looking to keep their community safe. And then finally, staffing. Again, appreciate the support of this committee in terms of ensuring that we have appropriate supports in place, appropriate counseling supports. We have licensed social workers that work in our school. One of the things that we have to candidly say that we have to reaffirm with the staff and student body is our participation in the See Something, Say Something anonymous reporting system. So this is something that has been in place since 2018, I think it is. It's been in the background a little bit during COVID, but we need to get out there and reaffirm and put that back out to staff and to students to let them know that there is this reporting system. If you see something, you say something. You can call, you can click, you can submit a paper report even to an administrator. So Securely is a tool. It's part of our, to back up a little bit, we have to be compliant with federal child safety requirements when they are on a network computer. Part of that is monitoring their searches. So we have a system in place that when a child is signed into the network, we're able to identify, we're able to understand if they are searching terms that might suggest risk. And there's more to it. I'll leave it at that. But there's a couple of central office administrators that are involved in just who kind of get reports when students are searching terms that suggest they might be putting themselves or others at risk. So again, that's something that is part of our requirement to make sure that students are safely using the internet while they're on our network. The health and wellness curriculum, we've talked a lot about that at this committee. Bullying prevention, threat and risk assessment. We have capacity to conduct risk assessments if necessary. And then threat assessments. A few years back, our entire administrative team went to a training over in West Springfield Public Schools on that's sponsored by the Sandy Hook Promise organization. We probably need to tighten up the formality of that threat assessment process, but we have administrators that are trained and tuned into what to look for, what to ask for, if we're worried that a child might be a threat to himself or others. And I think that is all we have. So again, this is just meant to provide some sort of cross-section, some flavor for our attention to school climate and how we think that school climate, positive school climates create safe, physically safe schools as well. So happy to answer any questions that you might have on this part of the presentation. Can I stop the share?
Comments or questions for Marty? So unfortunately, you do not get a chance to ask. That's the way that these things work. So you can email us. Feel free. Gianna, go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. Is it sergeant or captain?
I know, I was
Captain.
so.
No, don't worry, I've worn many hats.
I'm so sorry. You used to be sergeant. I know.
Officer Carmel and all the kids know that, so.
I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Okay.
And congratulations, by the way,
Oh,
how
thank
long
you.
ago it was, but, so Captain, thank you, and Superintendent, thank you for all of this. I know y'all have talked about that, I mean, the technology, I don't know much about it, but seems very impressive, and so thank you for that, and the communication piece. That radio thing is really cool. I work in a building, and we use radios. I'm a school counselor. So just today, so I'll just use today as an example. For the past 8 years, we've done something called Peace Day at our school. It's an elementary school in Springfield, and brings together first responders, police officers, sheriffs. You know, today we even had a helicopter from Lifestar. So it was incredible. But the reason that we do that, and Superintendent, you mentioned trusted adults, is because we really want our kids, and we've got pre-K to fifth grade, so we've got babies, 3-year-olds. We want them to be exposed to kind of who are the people in your neighborhood, who are the people that are here to help you. And so, and every time we have an attendance officer come in, or just one of our visiting police officers, you know, they go to all the classrooms, and it's just kind of that purposeful, consistent kind of raising awareness again for, you know, I'm the only counselor in my building. I've got 300 kids. Now that's not a big school, but you know, I wouldn't be able to, you know, efficiently support 300 kids if they all had some kind of, you know, concern. And so same thing with the high school. You know, we've got a handful of school counselors who, you know, are expected to be there for 1,000 students or 3,000 students in the district. And so I just think it's important if we can focus on the trusted adults beyond the school. And I know Officer Chaplain is amazing, but again, she can't be responsible for, you know, having that kind of engagement and that relationship. We talk a lot about relationships between educators and students and families and community partners, but you know, I just would love if the emphasis continues on the trusted adults beyond the school walls and beyond Officer Chaplain. You know, even if officers just visited and walked, and maybe this happens, but just visited and walked through the classrooms, because the kids today, and again, a kindergartner today picked out our attendance officer. You know, there was 50 people sitting up there, and this little 5-year-old was able to pick out, because that attendance officer, you know, wanders through the school every once in a while, and you know, and goes in and engages and raises awareness. So I really think that trusted adult piece is huge, and you know, we just thank you for your service and all that you do, and really just raising awareness, relationship building. So, yeah.
Thank you, Gianna. Nicole?
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for taking the time to go over as much of this as possible. Captain Mazzaferro and Dr. O'Shea, I'm wondering if you, Dr. O'Shea, if you could speak to the See Something, Say Something reporting system. I know that you sent out a message recently that included a link to that. Yeah. I'm curious if you could clarify maybe for the community if that's in an easy-to-find location other than an email. Is that something that students are very aware of where to find easily?
So in 2018, 2019, we did trainings with the students, and they were given the opportunity with the knowledge of their parents to download an app. It's intended for grades 6 through 12, and so students who are able to would have an opportunity to download the app, and they could report that way. The link should be available still on our website. We should double check that. But I think we do need to do more reorientation and retraining with students next year on that. We obviously have a new group of students in that 6 to 12 cohort, so orienting them to that. There's signage that is still up around the building, but we just need to kind of make that more prominent and get it out there more frequently to the kids. So it should be available via the app, via our website, and there's also a phone number that they can call as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but posters around the building would help us, orient kids to that and make them aware of how they access the tool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking to the new cohort, I was a 6th grader when that happened, and I'm going to be a 12th grader, so definitely that re-education would be needed.
It's been 6 years. I can't, I don't know, it's been that long. 6th grade? Yeah, I think we did it in you must have been 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade? 8th grade, maybe? Well, maybe, it could be.
No,
Could
probably
be.
7th grade.
I'd have to go back and figure out the timeline.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Well, thank you, Marty. Thank you, Captain Mazzaferro. Thank you. I think, obviously we're going to continue this discussion, but I think we all are very impressed with, what we learned tonight. And again, hopefully everybody will stay engaged with this because we all know how important it is. So thank you, both of you, for all of this.
Thank you.
Captain, thank you.
All right, we are to administrative reports. Marty, you're up.
Sure, I will be, I'll be brief. You've heard a lot from me tonight. Graduation, most important event of the year, coming up Thursday night, and we're hoping the weather permits. We'll be out here at the stadium field, and Principal Landers and his team do a great job, and looking forward to that event. Few other things. I would echo what was said earlier. The number of events that help us celebrate the end of the year are just so impressive. Field days, concerts, graduations, step-up events, too many to mention. Concerts, too many to mention, but all that bring a lot of joy to kids, and appreciate all the planning that our teachers and our administrators have done on all those events. Had an opportunity to participate in an MSBA webinar recently around sort of the community engagement, community visioning process. So that was helpful. Mostly it was around the aesthetics of buildings. There's another one coming up that I hope I shared with the committee. Let me know if I didn't. June 16th, there's a session that the MSBA is running on the the financing associated with the building project. So that might be helpful, and let me know if you didn't get that. COVID is trending in the right direction for us. I checked just before the meeting. We had about 16 active cases, so we're down significantly. That's encouraging. We will distribute test kits through the end of the year, and we'll have a supply. Not sure how long it will carry us, but we'll have a supply of test kits that will be available to us in the fall as well. So that should be helpful. Challenge Success, we had another meeting just yesterday with the Challenge Success folks. Talked about how to make that information available and how we can use it to drive some strategic goals. One of the things that we talked about with our Challenge Success partners was how to connect the data to our efforts to really embed the vision of the graduate and promote engagement at all grade levels. So that will continue to be active, and we'll probably over the summer, early fall, we'll make information available to the committee and to the wider community about that Challenge Success survey, and I'm looking forward to that. They had some great ideas about how to bring together student groups, family groups, how to educate families about the data, how to educate, how to have students reflect on the data, how to have staff teams reflect on the data. So stay tuned for more on that. For putting together, along with Chelsea Berry, a comprehensive end-of-year training on the new elementary math series. I might have stolen something that you're going to mention in your report, but you'll say it better than I did. But I want to thank you for coordinating that end-of-year training on the Bridges program. So that's all I have.
Any comments or questions for Marty? All right. Thanks, Marty.
All right, thank you.
Over to Sue.
Thank you, good evening. Hold on.
Greg,
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're gonna have to talk, really gonna have to yell.
Wow, so unlike me.
My voice is
Just,
gone.
I just wanted to thank Bronwyn and Susie for their time. I saved mine for my report, but you know, you're great advocates for students, and you came along at just the right time, and I so much appreciate all of your thinking and supporting that. So, thank you. We'll definitely miss you. Still may call.
That's quite all right.
I think I must have read Marty's report and then written mine right after, and that's called collaboration, right? Not stealing, but we have been, over the last weeks, actually having a lot of discussion about the social and emotional and behavioral supports that we can be adding for students. And so we've had lots of those discussions. We're digging into data. As Marty said, we are looking at our challenge success results and our youth with behavior. So I just wanted to mention that every time we meet with a grade level or a group of people, actually we met this afternoon with a large group of high school staff, somebody always says something amazing about the students and how wonderful they are. And so all of that continues, and there were especially great kudos for the 9th grade class today, right?
Yeah.
And, one of the kindest classes that has ever come through. So, yeah, kudos to you if you have a 9th grader. Our goal too, expanding high quality instruction based on UDL. Marty mentioned the Bridges in Math training. Again, I'll just toss Chelsea Berry in there. She's our math coordinator at elementary, who's done so much work on this. But I don't know if anyone had a chance to see our teachers over at Center School. Thank goodness it hasn't been brutally hot. They're all packed into the community room over there. Within the last few days of school, they have so much stuff they want to do with their students. They've given up 2 full days in these last couple of weeks of school, and they are engaged in their learning, man. It's crazy how just spot on they are with this PD. So I really appreciate them and all that work, and I know that they really want to be in their classrooms with their kids in the last few days, but they love the program. They're getting excited to start it, and I can't wait to see the results for students. So kudos to them. Let's see, we're going to be doing lots of summer work in math, and then on the second day of school, we'll have teams diving into it as well. So we have a decent amount of, the small amount of PD time we have dedicated to math at elementary for sure. PD planning around next year is going to be continued alignment for social and emotional learning, making effective use of universal screening data, kind of on an ongoing basis, some content-based math, content-based really everywhere ELA, continued coaching for DEI and inclusive practices, hopefully. We're starting to see something really cool now, that trickle-down effect of that coaching. So as an example, several of the folks who have been coached have proposed professional growth courses for other educators, and one of them actually did it already last semester, and a teacher in that class is really making a difference kind of district-wide about a practice that they had to think long and hard about based on what she had learned in that class. So really happy to see that, and won't give specifics because it might tag them, but in elementary literacy, we're working on, best practice in the workshop model, kind of with an emphasis on phonemic instruction, really that basic reading instruction that little kids need. We have tons of summer curriculum proposals, over 50. I thought for sure people were going to say no thank you this summer, but after a couple weeks, I think they're going to dive right back into it. So kudos to them. 24 proposals for professional growth classes for next year also are all related to our district and school improvement goals. So that's great. I'm pretty excited about our middle school STEAM program. We have a brand new teacher on board at Williams, right? All hired and ready to go. And our teacher at Glenbrook is moving from the strictly technology realm into STEAM, and she has just gone above and beyond to get ready for that. And Agawam Public Schools have been really great to us and hosted her a couple times for visits to their STEAM program. So thank you to them. Our LHS program of studies review is in process. The poor consultant, I've just been dumping data on him. So we will meet with him early in the summer to talk through some things with him. Let's see. Our PG courses, I think I already spoke, really are reflecting inclusive practice related to the equity audit, things like that. So I just gave you three of the PGC courses that relate to equity in the classroom at all grade levels for sure, and some potential funding opportunities, fingers crossed. We did put in and had our grant accepted for the core math curriculum, the bridges. It won't be voted upon by the grants committee until probably 2 or 3 weeks from now, but if we get that funding, that will be amazing. We'll cover our bridges program and get us some additional things that we ask for, hopefully.
No,
Hopefully.
that's great.
Yeah, and then maybe we can use that additional funding for coaches. Coaches. There's also MTSS Academy for the Department of Education that we applied for this week, which would give us some help in facilitating that social, emotional, behavioral side of the MTSS framework, which would be great. Close Community, their grant application is up for renewal this year. That Shelley and Paul worked a lot and tirelessly on that, and Director O'Shea too. We were submitting it like at midnight one night, right, to get it in. They won't hear probably till late to mid-August on that grant, but we're hoping that we get that funding for another 5 years. They've done so much great work. They worked with our 11th grade civics action projects this year. They did a prescription drug take back. They work with the wellness program on a regular basis. Paul McNeil is here in the building every day. He's one of those adults that makes great relationships with students, and so particularly important to have that group back another 5 years, hopefully. And then just the Student Anti-Racism Committee has worked so hard this year, and I just want to give them a shout out for trying to leave it in really good shape for next year's students to start taking over. So they've got a lot of kind of projects in the hopper, and like a cultural fair. They're going to participate in the Longmeadow Pride Festival, and they're considering combining some of the clubs that do similar things in order to get a bigger club together. So anyway, share that with your friends.
Share that with them.
Thanks. And then all of our new MECO students have been called by me. That's the best phone call of the year to make, and they're registering, and we've had a couple of our high school students meet each other, come in, take a tour, and so we are working hard to get everything up and running for next year. Sorry that was long. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Any comments or questions for Sue? Nicole?
I don't have a question off the top of my head, but I just wanted to say thank you for telling us all of these amazing things that are underway, and also that I absolutely love how you organized it all under the department or district improvement plan goals and laid it all out in a way that is just, it really hits all the things that I know you work really hard on, and appreciate hearing more details about each of those things. It's awesome to hear more about the work that's happening on curriculum.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Sue.
Welcome.
All right. I am up. Just a couple of things. I want to start by acknowledging that this is our last meeting before the school year ends. Next meeting, school will be out. So congratulations to our students. Congratulations to our educators. It's been a challenging year for everybody, and thanks everybody for getting us to the finish line again. I know we're not there yet, but we'll be there shortly, and I look forward to a great celebration at graduation. That'll be a wonderful, wonderful event for everyone. Also, the election is happening next week, so just a reminder to folks to vote. The high schoolers already voted. Dakin is back. Yay. So we're excited that Dakin will be with us for another year. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right. And then the final thing that I want to talk about, I just want to take a minute to reflect with the committee and just acknowledge that this is our last meeting for this iteration of the committee, and just to thank each and every one of you for a wonderful, challenging, impactful year. We've gone through a lot together, and I feel like we've done it well. We've done it with some disagreement, with a lot of agreement, but I hope that we've always done it with respect and kindness and caring, and we've modeled what we hope our students do when they have to disagree with each other or try to come to agreement. And I would just say that I'm very proud of what we've done as a committee, the elected members, the administrators, everybody who is here. I think that it's been a good year. It's been challenging, but it's been a good year. So thank you to everyone. I also want to acknowledge this is my last meeting as chair. I am very happy that it is my last meeting as chair. And I look forward to, in 2 weeks' time, we will all welcome our new committee members, and we will constitute our new committee. So, yeah, thank you to everybody. I think it's been a wonderful run. And, I think it's important to acknowledge and celebrate that. So, thank you. Nicole.
I would just like to say, I suspect behalf of everybody, thank you very much for working so hard this year and for taking on the leadership that you did and for guiding us through another tricky year. We all appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. All right. We are on to Dagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, I will be with all of you for another year. I am very, very excited. We're going to bring myself and my committee will be bringing some new things, very big, transparent things to the student body. I really want my job to be as transparent as possible. I do not think that I have reached my goal of advocacy yet. I have not been able to reach 100% of the student body, and that is my goal for the next year. But as Mr. Shea said, we did have our elections. All of the class officers for the next year have been chosen. Kudos to all of those young students. I wish you the best of luck in running your classes and running, or if you're in an at-large position running the school. It is a big job, as I can tell you, and good luck to them. Congratulations to all of our sports teams that have ended their seasons. The track teams, softball teams, baseball teams. Lacrosse is still going on. Boys is moving on to the finals. I believe the girls are as well. So kudos to them. They're moving on for their hard work and their great determination, great effort throughout the season. And then for activities, obviously we've had a very busy spring. Tonight is prom, so I was driving here. Everyone's on the green taking pictures. They're probably all at the log cabin about now. So I know they're not watching because they're partying it up, but please be safe. Please be responsible. It is a very fun event, but let's make sure it's a very safe event. And then obviously we have graduation, as all of you know, coming up on Thursday. Congratulations to all of our seniors. You have done such a tremendous job moving throughout high school, navigating the COVID-19 pandemic throughout high school, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, whether that be college, the trades, military, whatever life takes you. And with that is my last address for the school year. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Dagan. All right, we move to other reports. LPVEC.
No report.
All right. Bronwyn, I wonder if we could just ask you to share with us your LPVEC role. I know that's something we're going to have to fill in with the next committee. If you wouldn't mind just reminding us what we're going to have to do, because you've served in that capacity for a while now, and I think it helped the committee just to hear about what role you served in and what we're going to have to fill starting 2 weeks from now.
Sure. So my initial role that Mary has done a wonderful job of this past year is actually a lot bigger time commitment. That group meets once a month, and although as Mary said, very efficient meetings, so hopefully the next person, I was sad to hear that Bill was leaving, but hopefully the next chair will do well. So that was more of like the, I don't want to say day-to-day stuff, but a lot more information. the group that I'm on only met 4 times this year. And I'm actually going to miss the 4th meeting because it is next Wednesday, so the day after the election. So I don't know that there'll be someone available, just because you won't have a meeting before then. But I think it's a great thing to be a part of. I think it's joining this board would be a nice way for someone who wants to learn more about the LPVEC, but maybe doesn't have an extra day or evening every month, can kind of ease themselves into the position by just having the meetings, 3 or 4 times a year. But I really, really love the LPVEC. Roland's great. The other members that you meet from the other towns, the school committee members, it's really nice to meet with them, and you can ask them questions about what their schools are doing, things like that. And I would assume next year the meetings will be back in person, which those are even, more fun. So I would definitely encourage someone to take this spot, especially if they're looking to learn more about the LPVEC. But like I said, they don't have maybe an extra, 9 or so evenings, but maybe just 3 or 4. So it's a great committee, and everyone over there, Phyllis, everyone is so easy to work with. So I enjoyed my few years doing that, and I highly recommend that the person who will take over this spot will enjoy it.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Very helpful. All right. I do not have an energy and sustainability report. We didn't meet since our last meeting. Gianna, Seal.
Thank you, Kevin. So SEAL has finished their meetings for this year, Special Education Alliance of Longmeadow. I just want to give a huge thanks to Jean Fontaine, Diane Porfilio, and Megan Downey for their leadership, and to all the parents and guardians and families who participated in SEAL this year. So we will be back, and I'll be reminding you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianna. I'm assuming there's no tax ceiling. Okay. That brings us to subcommittee reports. We do not have any reports from our regular standing subcommittees. We do have a report from the naming committee, and I will turn that over to Marty.
Sure. So the naming committee has not met, but it will need to be constituted. So we received an application to name a portion of the facility. The application is in your packet along with the policy that governs that. And so no action is needed tonight, although you could identify a naming committee. But given that at your next meeting you'll be reorganizing and reestablishing subcommittees, it might be wise to wait until that meeting. So the policy is pretty dense, so we thought it'd be helpful to put that in your hands now along with the application.
Thank you, Marty. Just a quick question. Can you give us an idea of the time frame for that committee?
The amount of the commitment, time commitment? Is that what you mean?
And what we're looking at in terms of we should make a decision by, 2 months from now,
Yeah.
2 weeks from now? How does that work?
So I might look to Diane. I don't think there's any deadline.
Okay.
You can sort of take the appropriate amount of time with that.
Okay.
So I think it's usually in my experience, I think the naming committee, subcommittee is met usually once or twice.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Usually there's dialogue with whoever put in the application to try to hone what you will allow, what you want, what you want to recommend.
Key there was there's no urgency.
Correct.
But we need to make this happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments or questions on that? All right, so we'll hear more. All right. We do not have ongoing business. Marty, the student handbook, I hear we're going to table that?
If I could table that until your next meeting, it'd be helpful. Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody have a problem with tabling that? Susie, would you like more meeting time? Okay, all right, just checking.
All set.
So we are to the executive session, and we have a recommended motion.
I move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation with collective bargaining with Units A, B, C, D, E, F, H, and with non-collective bargaining personnel. And Purpose 7, consideration of release of executive session minutes of previous meetings to reconvene into open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
And again, just a reminder, it is to reconvene into open session. So we'll go into executive session and then come back out into open session. Any discussion? All right, we will vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes for me. We are now in executive session, and we will come back out when we are done. Thank you, everyone.
You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on, did we admit?
I don't know, Kathy is logged in yet?
Let's see her. Oh, there she is. She's waiting. Okay.
I'm too busy turning my computer. Sorry.
Alrighty. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I would like to call the meeting back to a recommended motion regarding an agreement with Unit A.
I move that the school committee approve the memorandum of agreement with the Longmeadow Education Association, Unit A, dated, which was ratified by the unit on May 25th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think at this point it's probably a good idea just to review a little bit about the Unit A. So this is obviously a really pivotal moment because we have come to you with a ratified agreement from Unit A that we've spent the last 5 months, 6 months negotiating with Unit A educators. We're very happy that we've come to an agreement, and there were a few things that we in this contract negotiations. Forgive me, it's late. But the key is to obviously to make sure that Longmeadow educators are compensated at a rate that's competitive in the region, and that honors and respects all of the work that they do for the children of Longmeadow. And we feel as though what we've come to as an agreement does that, and that's obviously felt by the LEA Unit A as well. We also were really hopeful to make some adjustments to the previous contract that just to bring certain practices and benefits in line with the way that they're conducted in other places. In particular, the sick leave policy, and I know Marty will talk a little bit more about the details. And then really to look at some of the other components of the contract that have room for growth and room for exploration, in particular with the coaches and stipend salary levels, as well as how we can support our early learners the best in our elementary schools. And so looking at the work day, the work year, all sorts of pieces. So there was a lot of great conversations that we engaged in, and some, I think, from the standpoint of the negotiating committee, a lot of progress was made in terms of having some open and honest dialogue moving forward that will help us get to places where we're working more efficiently, effectively, and with highest quality for our youngest learners. And Marty, I can hand it over to you to talk about the specifics.
Thank you, and to echo what Susie said, I want to thank the school committee especially the negotiation subcommittee for all the time it put into bringing us to this vote this evening. Susie, as the chair of the negotiation subcommittee, put in a considerable amount of time, along with Nicole and Gianna, as members of that committee. And so I thank them for that, and I thank our partners at the LEA for engaging in very, very constructive, very collaborative, very spirited negotiations. And I thought it was fair. I thought we arrived at an agreement that helps us continue to honor and attract and retain excellent educators, but also works within the fiscal realities that are part of negotiating a contract in any community these days. So a few provisions in this memorandum of agreement that the committee is going to take a vote on shortly. This is a 3-year agreement carrying us through September 1st, 2025. There are some provisions that allow us to bargain with the LEA should there be a need to adjust the work year. We've had some years of disrupted calendars, and so this contract allows us to creates an avenue, a path, if we needed to make an adjustment should there be a disrupted school year calendar. Most recently, COVID and weather have been the sources of that. A longevity benefit, it moves us towards requiring employees to accept checks on a direct deposit basis. This agreement also moves us towards phasing out a benefit that allows employees to send their children to Longmeadow Public Schools, but it does it in a slow, thoughtful way, a fair way, in a way that doesn't disadvantage educators who are currently employed with us, so that benefit will remain in place for those employees. There's a provision in the memorandum of agreement for the administrative team to sit down with our elementary educators and the LEA leadership to take a look at, all agreed in negotiations that there's a lot on the plates of our elementary educators, and we think that we can make more creative use of time to develop some fair, creative solutions that address the needs relating to the challenges of being an elementary educator, but also support our learners with appropriate time on learning. So we're looking forward to activating that committee, perhaps even this summer. This contract it also moves us towards a more traditional, more commonly used, I should say, sick leave arrangement, personal sick leave arrangement for our Unit A educators. And again, it does it in a way that allows for us to account for the sick leave that employees have accumulated in recent years. And so with this memorandum of agreement, it would move us towards an arrangement where employees receive 15 sick days per year, which is, again, more of an industry standard for us. It also removes the distinction between personal illness and family illness. We think that's a family-friendly policy. And helps us support working educators who are raising families as well and responsible for family members' health. There's a number of housekeeping items that are not of great significance here. I would add that the wage agreement, that this memorandum of agreement, it proposes a general wage increase of 2% in year one of the contract, a general wage increase of 2.25% in year two of the contract, and a general wage increase of 2.25% again in year three of the contract. It also allows for a one-time payment of $750 to Unit A educators payable prior to June 30th, 2022. So that, again, is a way to in a budget, in a fiscally responsible way, a way to acknowledge and respect all the contributions our educators have made over the last several challenging years. Finally, this adjusts the length of the work year, not for, it doesn't affect the student year, but it affects the length of the work year for educators over the life of the contract only. We're really interested in moving towards more job-embedded professional development. So with this contract, again, to help us reach an agreement, it would reduce the work year for educators from to 183 days in year one of the contract, 184 days in year two, and 184 days. Subsequent to that, it would revert back to the 185-day work year for educators. So again, pleased that we were able to reach this agreement. It required a lot of work, a ton of collaboration, a lot of spirited dialogue. Thanks to Tom Mazza for kind of behind the scenes, helping us understand the fiscal obligations associated with this, and Sue Bertrand as well for helping us work through some of the questions relating to time on learning and professional development. So, and thanks to the LEA, and a shout out to Kathy Rosado. She is in her final year as president of the Longmeadow Education Association, and I've had the honor and privilege of working closely with Kathy now for 6 years, and we're going to miss her leadership. She'll come back next year as an educator, but she is, it's time for her to pass the baton to other LEA leaders. But thanks to Kathy for her leadership in bringing this to fulfillment. And Jamie DeBurn as well, another Unit A educator who provided key leadership. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Marty. Additional comments or questions from the committee? All right, thanks again to everybody who made this possible. I know how hard it was to get here, and I really appreciate all the hard work of everybody from the committee, from the admin team, and from our partners at the LEA. I think it's time to vote. Mm-hmm. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. All right, next up we have Central Office Administrator contracts. Susie?
All right, I have some motions I'd like to propose. I move that the school committee approve the contract amendments for the superintendent for a 3-year period from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025 as presented, and authorize the chair to sign the contract on behalf of the committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we will vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. Susie?
All right. I move that the school committee approve the contract amendments for the Director of Pupil Services for a 3-year period from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025 as presented, and authorize the chair to sign the contract on behalf of the committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes from me. Susie?
I move that the school committee approve the contract amendments for the Assistant Superintendent for Learning and Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations as presented, and authorize the chair to sign the amendments on behalf of the committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. Susie?
I move that the school committee approve the contract amendments for the superintendent, assistant superintendent for learning, assistant superintendent for finance and operations, and director of pupil services as presented for FY 2022 dated June 7th, 2022, and authorize the chair to sign the amendments on behalf of the committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. Susie?
I move that the school committee authorize use of FY22 budget general funds for contractual one-time payments to Longmeadow Public Schools administrative staff and for one-time payments to non-collective bargaining support staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. Are we on to our next agenda item?
We are.
Excellent. We are to the 2022-2023 school calendar. And Marty, do you just want to explain this?
Sure,
And then
yep.
we can go to our recommended motion.
Yep. So with the memorandum of agreement that was just approved by the school committee and ratified by the LEA, we need to make adjustments to the 22-23 school year calendar. This does not, to be clear, it doesn't shorten the student year. Students will attend school 180 days as required. However, this does shorten for just the 22-23 school year. It does shorten the school year for educators. And so with this, we would propose eliminating professional development days 4 and 5. Currently, they were on the previously approved calendar for November 10th and March 17th. So this would leave us with 3 professional development days still. So reducing the educator work year from 185 days to 183 days. So the draft of the 22 packet, it was reviewed by our calendar committee and unanimously approved. That's a requirement of our contract. So for your review and consideration, the revised 22-23 school year calendar.
Thank you, Marty. We have a recommended motion.
I move on the recommendation of the calendar committee that the school committee approve the revised 2022-2023 school calendar to remove 2 professional development days as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. I think we have made it, folks. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll move to a vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes from me. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we made it.
Thanks, Kathy.
All right, have a great night.
Good night.
Bye.